and you know that I'm trash for this trope, I go headfirst into it. Hello, did you miss me? Today we're talking about the books I read in August, and there were 6, and I'm going to tell you my August statistics. 4 books were written by women and 2 were written by men. 5 were adult books and 1 was a YA. 4 were books that I got with my money and 2 were books that I borrowed from the library. 3 were non-fiction. There was 1 contemporary, 1 mystery and 1 romance. The first book that I read was Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. If you're living under a rock, you don't know that this is Twilight, the famous book from 10 or 15 years ago of a romance between a human girl and a vampire, and this time we get this same book but from Edward's point of view. In my opinion, Midnight Sun is much more interesting than Twilight because for once Edward is a vampire, he can read minds, and this comes very handy if you want to get to know other characters better, and to be honest, he makes most of the decisions in Twilight and even through the saga, so it's better to follow the character that's making the decisions than just following the character that is being dragged by. I won't talk much more about this book because I already have a dedicated review in my channel and I'll link it down below. Next, I read Educated by Tara Westover. This is a memoir written by a woman that never went to a classroom until she was 17, and even with that she managed to get into Harvard and Cambridge. The main reason why she got to school so late in life is because of her father. He was a very extremist Mormon. He was a fanatic, and to be honest, he was kind of ignorant, and in his ignorance he put his family at risk time after time. He's a man that made very stupid decisions that put him in jeopardy and his family, and for example, he didn't have any sense of safety at work because he thought that God would protect him from anything. To be honest, I was expecting something more of life lessons in here, and we did get some of that, but I think that the main thing I got out of this book was family drama, family gossip, and even though I enjoyed the drama, I was living to see if Tara's family members were going to get what they deserved, but I didn't think like I got any valuable lesson out of this, and it is what I was expecting because of the title. Next, I read Lock Every Door. In here we follow Jules, a 20-something girl that has lost everything. She lost her parents, she lost her sister 8 years ago, she disappeared into thin air, she recently lost her job, she lost her boyfriend, and she has nothing, not even money. Which is why when she sees a news ad for an apartment sitting job that's too good to be true, she doesn't make the smartest decision. She's going to get $1,000 a week to take care of an apartment in one of the most luxurious parts of New York, and this is the Bartholomew. It is a fictional apartment, but Jules has been in love with this building all of her life because it is where the main character of her favorite book moved to when she was growing up. She soon finds out that the terms and conditions are quite fishy. It was too good to be true. For example, she cannot get any visitors, not even for 5 minutes. She's not allowed to spend any nights out of the Bartholomew, and she's not allowed to talk to the neighbors. She soon befriends Ingrid, a girl that reminds her of her lost sister. And you know that I'm trash for this trope. I go headfirst into it, and I really enjoyed this part of the story. So that's why when Ingrid disappears, Jules cannot help but get to the bottom of it, and she discovers some very creepy stuff. For example, Ingrid is not the first one to disappear from the Bartholomew. This book made me feel a lot of things, and one that I've never felt before is claustrophobia. Some of Jules' decisions were quite foolish, but I think that the way that she got out of 2 fishy situations just stopped that. The solutions were so smart that it even inspired me to write my book more often. My next book is The Last Days of August. This is an Audible original, which means that you can only get it through Audible. And at the time that I got it, it was free during that month. And it is narrated in podcast form by John Bronson. Here we follow the story of August Thames, a porn star that tweeted something that was seen as homophobic by a lot of people, and because of this she got cyberbullied. The next thing that we know is that she hung herself from a tree in a park. John Bronson interviews Kevin, which is August's husband, one day before an event that's kind of like the Oscars for porn movies. And Kevin is pretty sure that there are two main culprits for August's death, which is Jessica Drake, and she's a famous porn star, and Jackson Wheeler, another famous porn star. For example, Jessica has a large following, and because she wasn't on board with what August had tweeted, she tweeted about it, and some of her followers started bullying August. Also, Jackson Wheeler tweeted that either August should apologize or eat a cyanide pill. And you may wonder, why did Monica pick this audiobook? And to be honest, I picked it so long ago that even I forgot. But then I started to get some refreshment in my memory, because, for example, Jessica Drake's tweet wasn't that aggressive, and Jackson Wheeler's pill tweet was published after August's death. Naturally, John Bronson is not very convinced at what Kevin is saying about August's death, and he starts interviewing and investigating, and this story is the conclusion of what he researched for over a year. To be honest, it is one of the best Audible originals that I have listened to, and it is very intriguing, so if you're into that, definitely give it a try. The next book that I read was The Life of Elizabeth I, and she's probably one of the most famous sovereign our world has known, and I truly admire Elizabeth's will to never let herself be manipulated by other people. She was able to keep control under the most difficult circumstances, and she was just so assertive at making decisions that even sometimes when her counselors didn't know what to say, she always had an answer for everything. She knew how to keep peace in her country like very little knew, and in the few circumstances where she had to go into battle, it was very rare that she lost. Naturally, she is human and a real one that existed, and she is flawed, and I had a little tough time overseeing those flaws. For example, she was very vain and she was always fishing for compliments, and she was very jealous of the men around her to the point where she didn't like the wives of her subjects to get near the castle. She even got physical with her maids of honor, and in one occasion she broke a finger of a lady that got married behind her back. It's a very long read, but I think it is worth it because there's as much scandal, treason, manipulation, scheme as any Game of Thrones book. The next book that I read is by a Mexican female author, and this is Hurricane Season. Here we not only follow a character, but we follow a small town called La Matosa, and especially after some kids that were playing at the river discover a corpse that belongs to a woman that the town knows as the witch. She had been brutally murdered, and we follow everyone that had something to do with that murder. This is a very addictive read, and it was very hard to put the book down. It does have very strong language. I don't know how this would translate into English, but there was a time that I was listening to it before bed, and at first my husband was laughing because of the language that the book manages, and then he asked me to put my headphones on because the language was just too much. If you can see through that, every single character in this book is truly interesting, and if you're looking for something dark with deep characters written by a Mexican author, a Mexican female author, and very dark, you should definitely give this book a try. The secret phrase today is August wrap up. Thank you for coming and talk with me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next week with a new video.